We started at 8 a.m. with baptism at the Jordan.
I was sprinkled as a Catholic infant, didn't have a choice. Immersed for the first time, and I asked Christ to be my husband, although I was married. And now I'm here because I'm a disciple of Christ.
Talmudim, to use the Hebrew word for it.
Keep coming this way, okay?
Vicky.
Zippori is only 4 miles away from Nazareth, and it's possibly the place where Joseph and Jesus would have gone to work. They were carpenters, but in that time, carpenters really meant masonry.
For a moment. You see, we walked in Bethsaida, we walked in Capernaum, we walked in Chorazin a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
How drastically different is this and where we were? Okay? Where we were was the world of Jesus in those little towns in Galilee. This is the Roman world. It's a different civilization. It's a different type of civilization. And no wonder that people, including the Jewish people, would be attracted to that. So we walked through the main street of the city. That's the corridor street, the main street. And most likely at the main street, they would be public buildings. And we are at one of the public buildings. We just don't know exactly what was here. Can you suggest something? Anything? What would you think possibly can be in this building?
City Hall.
City Hall. Definitely. It can be some kind of administration, central administrative building. Certainly, that can be it. Maybe that was the main archive. Unfortunately, no document was found. That's a possibility. Why do you need an archive? Legal documents, all sorts of legal documents, deeds, transactions. The market is nearby. We will pass the market area on the main street as well. Right, market is a big business. Right, so they wanted to keep an eye on the market. Bathhouses, we don't see them very well, but the ruins of the bathhouses here that have been excavated. So it's a very, very typical Greek/Roman city. But the wealthy Jews would also live there. The wealthy Jews, we will go to most likely wealthy Jewish part of town. But this is Roman. What we see here is nice mosaic that will depict certain elements that would be important for the Romans. And it's interesting in our case, this is interesting, we can see the big river. And you see in the middle, I hope your eyes are adjusted now a little bit. In the middle is the big river. And that's the River Nile. It's the River Nile. And the river has been deified. And the river is represented in the body of a female goddess. Can you see her? Mm-hmm. There, very beautiful. With the, can you see in one hand a horn of fertility? Can you see various fruits there, like figs, grapes, pomegranates, all that? There. Okay. All right. Another thing that is interesting that's next to me here is the building, and it says Alexandria. That represents the city of Alexandria in Egypt. Remember, it's on the Nile. It's in Egypt. And what was Alexandria famous for? It was famous for a big lighthouse. because it was a port. It was a port in the delta of the Nile River, still is. And can you see the lighthouse with the fire here? Okay, that's here. Another cool thing, I think even funny, is the middle part. Can you see a pole? There's a pole, and two funny dudes there chiseling something. Right? See that? I couldn't figure that out. So I needed help to figure that out. I wouldn't be able to. Our archaeology professor said he asked the students what that can be. Nobody came with the right answer. Nobody would come with the right answer. Apparently, the taxes, the Romans collected taxes according to how much water was in the Nile River. Because if there is lots of water, the crops will be good. If there is not enough water, the crops are less. And accordingly, they will vary the taxation. Okay, remember, Egypt was Greek speaking. Why is that? Because Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great. About 300 plus years before Jesus. 300 years before Jesus. And Egypt had a very important Jewish community since those days. Very flourishing. Maybe that's why Alexandria in particular and not any other city has been depicted here. It was the main city in those days in Egypt. And it had a very large Jewish community. Possibly, when Mary and Joseph, remember, had to flee Jerusalem or Bethlehem when Jesus was born. Remember, they go down to Egypt. It does not tell us where to Egypt, but possibly to Alexandria, because Alexandria had a very large Jewish community. And what is interesting about this, since the days of Alexander the Great, since 300 years BC, before Christ. And what is fascinating, I think, what happened to the Jewish people in Alexandria? Very quickly, they did not use the language, the Hebrew. They stopped using Hebrew language. They started to speak what? Greek, because Greek was the language of the country. It's just in my case, I was born in Russia. Guess what was my first language? Russian. You could not. There was no way to learn it. There was nowhere to learn it. Right? So it was Russian. Okay, the Greek for this people. And a couple of generations, they stopped understanding Hebrew, and they had difficulties reading the Bible in Hebrew language. So they demanded from their leadership to translate the Hebrew Bible into Greek language. Okay, and that's how it was done. You might find this interesting. This is how it was done.
Yeah.
The Jewish rabbi chose 70 Jewish sages. The people, smart people like Cassius, right? Cassius was the chosen one, one of 70 wise men, right? And they will put these people in the palace of the king in separate rooms. And they would not allow them to leave the room. They will bring the food.
Oh, yeah.
But they will not allow them to communicate.
Yeah.
And all 70 of them were commissioned with one thing, to translate the Bible from Hebrew into Greek. Okay? And after they finished the work, that's what the story says, after they finished the work, that was compared, the translation was compared, and it was identical. Okay? And hence, we call this translation the Septuagint, the translation of 70. That's the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, not the New Testament, Old Testament.
Yeah.
That was done in Alexandria, roughly around the year 200. Roughly around 200 BC. So you can see Alexandria here, some paintings, scenes, and whatnot here at that's part of the Roman culture that existed in Israel in the days of Jesus as well. And before that, remember we were at Beit Shan. And Beit Shan was a nice big city, Roman type, right? Greek-speaking Decapolis city. This one was not a Decapolis. Right? It was not an coalition of Decapolis.
Okay.
But we saw a Decapolis city. This is similar. This is also where the Greek was the language, the spoken language. The culture was mixed. It was a very large Roman and Greek population, but also very wealthy Jews. Okay, and that's what we would like to check. We would like to check a very wealthy Jewish house. That will be next, also with some beautiful.
So we're going up there.
He's resetting.
When you look at the last days picture, what it would be is that the armies of the Antichrist, which are armies from about 10 nations, will probably mass here. And this is the valley in which the Lord calls it his wine press.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
He calls it his wine press. And what's going to happen is, and where else are you? Notice the territory. Where would you amass a large army? And they're coming against Jerusalem. And so this is it. And then it says that he'll tread out the wine press with, what is it? I think it's Revelation 16 or so right in there. He's gonna tread the wine press. And so what he's going to do with these armies is he's going to crush them. How's he going to do it? With large hailstones. They weigh 100 pounds. Can you imagine? So there'll be this massive storm that will come and will destroy Antichrist's army. Now remember when I said the Armageddon is not the end of the world. It's the end of this army. And then you enter in where the Lord Jesus takes his throne, and with the resurrection has taken place. Actually, somehow we're already awake, and we're there. And then you go into the Messianic age, the period spoken of by the prophets, so much of it. And there will be 1,000 years in which the Lord from Jerusalem will rule. You'll be there. So this is I don't know where our assignments will be, but this will be home. So the Lord, it's really clear that he will take his place on Mount Zion, and we're going to go there in another day or so. So we have assignments to have. We'll be ministering and ruling. When Paul makes the remark, he says, "Don't you get it? You can't even. You're going to court in secular courts with each other and suing each other. You're going to rule on his behalf. You're going to even judge angels, and you can't handle disputes among yourselves." And he's talking about that future kingdom. You're being trained for all that ministry. We're going to be ministering and having authority. See, that era will be a time of righteousness, 1,000 years of imposed righteousness. People will be coming to the Lord. People will be dying, because most of the planet it's billions of people who weren't here getting crushed in Armageddon. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now that's the picture that we have. So this is that valley, the valley of decision. This is the Lord's wine press that he treads it out, and he's got blood on his robes and all. It's an ugly picture, like treading out grapes. The Lord will crush it.
Located at the foot of the Carmel mountain range, Megiddo is better known as Armageddon. The book of Revelation mentions a great battle, and it's also referenced about 5 or 6 other times within books of the Bible.
22 layers, and they have black color. In other words, burned. This city has the largest amount of layers that testifies to its destruction, often destruction of this thing. And that might interest us when we get up on top of that. If you feel it's a little bit too stressful, stay here, because we have to climb up quite a bit of stairs on the top, and then we would like to leave the Tel through the water tunnel that was built by Ahab. Remember the guy? King Ahab, days of Elijah. Okay, Ahab built it. So there will be 175 steps down, then 40 feet tunnel, and then 75 steps up. And the camel will be waiting for us on the other side. So if you don't want to do that, you guys better stay here and slowly make your way to Anis, to the bus. And Anis will take you around to the other side and pick us up from the other side.
Is that where we get to work and stuff?
The last place we visited for the day was Mt Carmel. This is the place where Elijah confronted the prophets of Baal. It's referenced in 1st and 2nd Kings, 2nd Chronicles, and Song of Solomon. That's it for the day, and tomorrow, the Mediterranean, Caesarea, followed by the Botanical Garden.